My work on sexual and reproductive health and rights has been mostly for women and girls who are from low economic status. Every time that there is a national budget planning, the sector that gets mostly affected is health and in terms of funding. When we do not have a country that commits most of its domestic resources to health, the women and girls are going to suffer. When the funding is cut, they suffer the most consequences in terms of access to contraception, access to information, to health and all those issues. So it's very critical that we talk about economic and macroeconomic issues. In the beginning, we were just solely talking about access to sexual and reproductive health and rights, access to health. But realizing how in our advocacy work, also at regional and global levels, everyone is also talking about financing for development, financing for health, financing for education, financing for different sectors. We've had to adjust our advocacy work to broaden it up, to also understand all these economic justice issues, financing, how they work, how they operate, because we cannot be able to request for resource allocation to the issues we're advocating for without at the same time addressing the larger global issues around financing for development. In Spectra, and as part of we being part of other Global South young feminist networks, cross-regional movement building has been really critical part of our work. We had to conduct a cross-regional kind of space between young feminists from Africa and young feminists from Latin America and from Asia and Pacific countries. We want to know if our challenges are also similar and how we can learn from each other, whether it's the sustainable development goals, but also in discussing these issues around macroeconomics. Cross-movement building also doesn't necessarily mean regions per se or as such, but it's also cross-movement in terms of different topics and issues. Our feminism is also had to be intersectional. We have also learned that we cannot work in silos. We also understand that the global economic, ecological issues affect young feminists in different ways. We have to organize with people that are working on climate crisis, for example, because one of the main issues that we're trying to articulate is that no one lives a single issue life. It's not like you're going to need health and then tomorrow you need education and then tomorrow you need money. I want to recall a very a specific example of where we worked together. This was within the African continent, but it was from different countries. And we're trying to do advocacy around the universal health coverage in the United Nations, a declaration that was adopted this year to coordinate and work with other colleagues from different African countries. And together we formed a group that would go and visit and talk to different government institutions and people that were leading the discussions on universal health coverage. And I do remember at some point, some government officials, they were willing to listen from us once they realized that this was not just Rwanda speaking to them, that there was also Nigeria, there was also South Africa, there was also different countries. And so they realized that there was some kind of coordination. So that it resulted into us being able to have some of the language and priorities that we're trying to push for within the African group. There is power in working together and sharing information and having somebody coordinate some of the actions that we're working on. It's also very powerful when it comes to solidarity. In terms there's a certain country that is going through a difficult phase or situation. I've seen how in the past, when we're working together as people that have the same interest, we can be able to provide some form of solidarity to them in terms of influencing, but also in terms of any support that they might need. And this is usually very helpful. So coordination is really key. And as we coordinate, it's also very important that we mobilize more. There are many women's rights organizations that are working on different issues, but they haven't yet connected the dots about how the issues they work on are linked to the global macroeconomic issues. So this is also an important role that we have to take on to mobilize more, but also to coordinate our efforts for maximum impact.